Alright guys, so I'm going to continue my winch rebuild series, and this video will be mainly me going through the process of sandblasting all the old parts in my DIY cabinet. I'm going to use a combination of aluminum oxide and then later try coal slag. I modified my cabinet to have a little bit better dust extraction. All cleaned up and ready to go. So hopefully things will turn out the way that I hope. So stay tuned. Alright, so I've been using aluminum oxide the last hour or so, and I got these two parts pretty clean. Sorry, I still have my mask on. The powder coat's tough, and I'm slow, but it does a pretty good job. It's not very aggressive. This part was a real pain because of all the nooks and crannies, but overall it came out pretty good. I'm going to switch over to coal slag. It seems like it's a little bit coarser, but I'll let you know. I have a part in here, actually. It's this nasty thing. So I'll let you know what works better. Hey guys, so I wanted to show you the difference between the aluminum oxide, which is here, and the coal slag, and I'll try to zoom in a little bit. The aluminum oxide is a lot finer, and it certainly feels less sharp. The coal slag is more like gravel, sharp gravel, where this is a lot finer. I'll try to get them a little bit closer together so you could see the difference. A lot more coarse and a lot faster material removal, which is good in most cases. So here's, I'll try to show you. I did this piece with aluminum oxide. You can see the sanding scratches are still there. You know, overall the finish is matte, but the aluminum is intact, and you know, the aluminum oxide was fine enough to get into the scratches. This piece I did with the coal slag, and I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but the finish is a lot coarser. In fact, if you dwell too long in one spot, you could definitely tell that you're removing the substrate. So like here, you know, it started to, let me see if I can get closer, it started to wash out a little bit of the detail in the corners. Not a huge deal, but I wouldn't want to do threads with coal slag. So for my purpose, coal slag worked a lot better. I mean, it took me 5 minutes to do this part, and it probably took me, I don't know, a half an hour with aluminum oxide to do this part. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and do everything with coal slag, because I will I'm going to epoxy prime all this before paint, because I'm going to use the same epoxy prime that I'm planning to use, or epoxy sealant that I'm using on the Wagoneer. So it'll be good practice, and I'll come back when all the parts are done. Alright guys, so it's been a few days, but I finished all the parts save two. I blasted everything in my cabinet here. I made one modification for the dust extraction. I got this $3 coupling, which works a lot better than that little piece of plastic. But everything worked out really well. Like I said, I continue to use the coal slag. I haven't washed these parts yet, but I wanted to show you what can be done at home with some basic, with time and with a little bit of homebrew engineering. So most of the stuff that's black is pitted, but boy, if it's not coming out with the coal slag at 90 psi, it's not coming out. I might try using a little pick to get some of those corners. I tried with the Sandblaster, but stuff just was not moving. This stuff, this is a steel, so mostly aluminum parts, with this gear housing being steel, very heavy, and you can see the finish. The powder coat on this one was really tough, but it came out really nice. I cleaned up the inside of the gears just lightly. The only thing I didn't do was the motor. The motor end cap had a crack in it. It came out, I saw that, looked like it had been hit on the side. So I put some JB Weld on here, a couple of layers, and then just kind of made it into a little bit of a fillet, because I don't plan on buying a new motor. The motor for this winch is $250, even on eBay. I think Warren wants something like 300 or more, so I'm gonna make it work. I might end up blasting the inside of it, but I think I'm just gonna POR both the inside and outside of the steel part and call it good enough. And I'll do that before I epoxy everything. So I just wanted to review a couple of parts, just to show you the finish that you can get. And there's a little bit of a crack, come on, a little bit of a crack there, but that's alright. This is just the an aesthetic part that goes in front of the motor. But this stuff just was not coming out. I might try to sand a little bit more by hand, but I'm not really interested in spending a whole lot more time. So I'm going to epoxy prime all of this. This one came out pretty nice, even in the back. There are a couple of areas that I did, but I'm going to have to polish. Like this wall here is a sliding surface for one of the main carriers, and so I don't want this to be a high friction surface. I'm going to polish this up with you know, a Brillo or Scotch pad and just make it fine, and same with the bushing in there. I didn't directly blow sand into the back of the bushing, but I'm certainly going to clean that all up. Same with this surface here. This should not be coarse, so I'm going to polish that up a little bit just by hand. But I'm very happy with how everything turned out, and I think I'll get good use out of that cabinet whenever I have to do, you know, nasty stuff like this. Even, you know, down in the little cracks where all the nasty powder coat was and really thick buildup that I wanted to remove. You know, was it a good idea to remove it? Well, it was flaking off, so I'll say yes. One thing I did find, this one of the studs was actually broken in here, so I had to drill that out and ended up having to drill it a little bit off center, but it shouldn't be a big deal because that's not a threaded hole. So that's about it. The next video will be paint, hopefully. I'm not sure how I'm going to paint. I'm going to have to set something up in the garage to hang the parts because I want to be able to paint them all at the same time. So front, and I want to have access to the front and back of all of the parts. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I have to think about something, maybe hanging them off of the overhead storage up there or something. I'm not really sure. But overall, super happy with how things turned out in the cabinet or the sandblasting box. And that's about it. I was thinking about this part. This is a part of the brake assembly. I may end up zinc coating some of this. You guys saw, or take a look at my zinc coating video. That process worked really well for the parts that I've done so far. I may end up doing the fasteners that came with this winch, but I don't know if it's worth the effort, quite honestly, other than a couple of the long ones. These are the ones that hold the two halves together. They got wire brushed. I might just scuff these up and electroplate them. So we'll see. Maybe I'll electroplate this. I'm not sure if I'll be able to remove this part of the brake, so I might end up just zinc coating this section of it. Maybe the gear. I don't know. But anyway, the next step will be paint. Maybe zinc coat. I don't think I'll show the zinc coating process again, but certainly the paint. And then after that, buying some of the ancillary replacement parts like the gaskets and you already saw the bearings, and then buttoning it all together, putting it all together, and hopefully putting it to a test. So let me know if you have any questions. Have a good night.